Hey everyone, I think we're live. Yes, there's a few people here already. Welcome in. It looks like I think maybe the polar opposite left that comment a while ago, but hopefully he's here too. Moss, I see you. Who else is here? Well, we'll let people, filter in. This is our second live stream for our bipolar. I love doing this. Thank you so much for joining. Hey. And the first live, if you attended that one, it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And we're just going to do it again, right? And if you haven't seen the first live, you can watch the replay and make sure you put on the live chat. You get a lot out of the chat as well. Oh, look at all these people. I see Kelsey. Hello. Hey, beautiful. I see Greg Smoot. Yes, I remember you from last time. My fellow Maryland person. Well, I'm a former Maryland person, but hey, I'll be Maryland for life. I see Refuse 202. Hello. I also see Catherine Gates. So glad you could sign on. And also Bipolar and Proud, CJ, Augustine, Florida. That's awesome. So yeah, as people filter in, I'll try to say hi to everyone. Jeff Parnell, hello, says greetings from New Mexico. Hey. So if you guys don't know, I think most of you know me. I'm Jess Curtis. I run the R Bipolar YouTube channel, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. I know a lot of you from, other social media sites, and I'm just so glad you're here and we can chat. And really, like I was saying last time, I'm getting just as much out of these lives as you are, and I hope you're getting something out of them. So, I'm going to do like a tiny introduction and feel free to introduce yourself in any way you might want to in the chat. But I'm trying to think what I said last time. I switch it up a little bit. So, like I said, I'm Jess. I'm 46. And actually, just this week, I did a little bit of a med change. I went down on my lithium from 600 to 450 milligrams because I have stage 3 liver, not liver. I always say liver, stage 3 kidney disease because of the lithium. So we're lowering the lithium in hopes that my kidneys will rebound and we'll see what happens. So I just did that on Wednesday and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling the same as far as I can tell. And what else? I'm married. I've been married for 17 years. My husband, Brian. I have a daughter, Pearson. She's about to turn 10. And really, you know, there was a time in my life when I probably would have never even considered having a child because my bipolar really was so mismanaged. I'm part of the problem. I was not treating my body very well, and then I was also not getting good management by doctors. I was, not on good meds, and I wasn't really being offered different options and things like that. So I'm very happy to have found lithium and Seroquel. And for me, that's what worked. But of course, those meds don't work for everyone. But now, lithium is a bit of a problem as well. So we're going to see how I do in this lower dose and then possibly add something else. Just going to play it by ear, see what happens. But I'm hopeful. I am hopeful. So I've missed a bit. Let me go back. Who's come on? Ann Lunam. Hey, thanks for joining us. I see Darren Sanderson. I just texted you, so you wanted a little reminder. Angie Hayes. Hey, so glad you could make it. And I see K Beeblebrock 6445. He's frozen as a lot of us are probably. I know a lot of us are probably on snow watch, blizzard watch, something like that here in the US. Yeah, I spent a good part of my day looking for the battery to this like rinky dink snowblower I have, which I haven't used in a few years, like since I moved to this house. And so we could not find the battery and the charger for the battery. And we looked in nearly every possible place and no. So we'll be doing it manually and that's fine. That's what I've been doing, but I was hoping to find the battery for the snowblower. Okay. I'm going to answer this question from Kelsey and then I'm going to do a quick poll. Okay. Kelsey Medela says, I take Lexapro for my anxiety and Seroquel for my mood stabilizer. After so many years of trying to find different ones, I finally found the right mix. Okay. So it's not technically a question, but I'm good. I'm really glad to hear that, Kelsey. That that is fantastic. And Kat says she takes 900 milligrams of lithium. I think that's so, yeah. And that's like a pretty, I think, reasonable dose. I know my dose is, I'm going, I said I'm going from 600 to 450. That is not a typical dose from what I've heard. That's pretty low. I am sensitive to meds and I'm also, trying to take a lower dose just because of my kidneys. But let me put this poll in the chat. And please feel free to elaborate. It's just going to be a poll kind of asking how you're feeling and like what's going on bipolar wise. And if you are like on here because you have a loved one with bipolar, you know, this one isn't really for you, but you can still tell us how you're feeling in the chat. We would love to hear it. And this is not going to encompass every kind of state with bipolar, but there are only so many multiple choice options. So, yeah, I couldn't put in mixed episode. So let's see. Right now, people are still taking the poll. It looks like about half of you are feeling stable. Great. And, if you're feeling manic, hypomanic, depressed, I totally get it. And, however you're feeling is you're welcome here. And like you can share in the chat how you're doing. And I'm sure you will get a ton of support from not only me, but the rest of the chat. So I'm going to keep that open for just a minute. Yeah, Anne Luna was saying, I'm just coming out of 3-month bipolar depression, FFS, hoping Vraylar will help. I'm really hoping for you that Vraylar will help as well. I don't know about other people, but I don't go into bipolar depression as often as mania or hypomania, but when I do, it usually does last a few months, unfortunately. And that may be an anomaly. I'm not sure. I see Polar Warriors is here. Hello. Hope I didn't miss anyone. Let's see. And the polar opposite is here. Anne says, thanks, Jess. It's debilitating. It really is. I mean, for me, and, tell me what you think, but the depressions are the hardest. Mostly for me because it is so hard to just kind of do anything. And then also, I really get I can't say the S word, but the feelings of wanting to end my life. And it's almost like it feels put upon me. It doesn't even feel like it's my decision to think that way. And it's really disturbing and just, it's just awful. Darren Sanderson says, our live chat room boasts my mania in a good way. And Moss T says, mixed rapid worse for me due to, yeah, life rejecting ideas. Yeah, mixed is really, really awful too. It's like, how do we compare these things, right? Oh, Polar Warriors, thank you so much for the super chat or super sticker. That was really kind of you. The polar opposite says, I forget. Here, I'm gonna pin when I talk about a chat. I'll end the poll. So I forget your husband's name. Does he ever do lives with you? Very good question. Very good question. My husband's name is Brian, and I actually have a poll about this very topic. So I'm thinking the next live, I'm going to be pretty busy for some of the Saturdays coming up. And the next one that really will work for a live stream is Saturday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. And where I'm not trying to make this like really lovey dovey or anything, but I was thinking like Brian could come on possibly and we could talk about relationships and like what it's like from his point of view, being the husband of someone who has bipolar, and he's pretty neurotypical. I mean, relatively, maybe a little spicy. But and just we can talk about your relationships, like past, present, that could include friendships, the good, the bad. So what do you guys I was gonna ask this poll later, but what do you guys think about having Brian on? I don't think he could join the entire live, so you definitely will have just me starting out, and then maybe about halfway through, we could have Brian join us. So I'm gonna and please just be honest because these lives are really they're for me too, but they're for you guys just as much, if not more. So just let me know what you think about having Brian come on. Okay. I don't know why it's not starting. I've done something weird. Oh, wait, I think I have to maybe unpin the message. I'm still learning, guys. This is only my second live. All right, I don't know. It's not starting. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Just tell me in the chat what you think about having Brian on and talking about relationships. And it can kind of be like a Valentine's Day / like anti-Valentine's Day live. And, the first half of the live, we could talk about anything bipolar. And then Brian could come on and talk a little bit about relationships. Catherine Gates says, definitely. I'm looking for some questions here too. Okay, Refuse 202 is asking anyone with a good experience with Zyprexa. So please answer in the chat unfortunately, I didn't have a good experience with Zyprexa, just being honest, but I was taking it for migraine because I was having like cluster migraines. I guess this was many years ago, and I was prescribed it for that. And the only reason I didn't like it was because I could not wake up, basically, and maybe the dose was too high. But so I d that's not really a fair assessment, and it wasn't being taken for bipolar, but I really could not function because I was asleep. Let's see. Moss says, "Regarding Brian, I really leave it to him." Well, he's game if you guys want him to come on, but, he's a teacher, so he's like, "This is nothing." Like, he's not nervous, He's, he'll be fine. But I don't want him to come on for the entire time because, like, a lot of he had a surgery, and it's just hard for him to, like, sit in a chair like this for a long period of time. So we were thinking more like half or just as long as he can do it, and then he can leave, and it's all good. I'll still be here. Talking about mania in the chat, Darren was saying, I saw a chat, but I don't see it now about how he loves mania. And Moss Teague said, Darren, yeah, I love mania too. Unfortunately, not the rest of the planet likes me in that state. I mean, if it's euphoric mania, I like it for a while until I become very annoying, and that's like the least of it. I eventually am gonna say some probably very inappropriate things to people. People are going to not like that. I'm gonna end up hurting people, and then it hurts me, and even more so when I get back to being stable. I have to try to fix things. Let's see. Oh, really quick, everyone. There's a bunch of people in here. There's almost 30 people in here. Do you think you could go and like this live just real quick? And then, that'll signal to YouTube to like push it out more to other people. That would be fantastic. Okay. Blake Earth. Well, welcome because I don't think I saw you before, but there's a question here. Let me pin it before I like just lost it for a second. Okay. Is there a relationship between bipolar disorder and anxiety? Well, yeah, and I see that Moss Teague has already responded saying strong link, coexisting conditions. Yes. And I also find that anxiety can lead to episodes for me, especially for me, it's more so like the mania side, but that's what I go toward most often naturally. But there can be a lot of anxiety and depression, right? I'm sure a lot of you have felt that as well. Let me see. Yeah, Jeff Parnell, 5805 says I can relate to the impulsivity, saying things and having conversations you otherwise wouldn't. It can be pretty embarrassing trying to clean up the mess when you regain clarity. Yeah, that's why I really don't like mania. Aside from, I don't know, everyone's slightly different, but when I have mania, it's the, racing thoughts that become the most bothersome to me. Like, I can't grasp thoughts, and then I get headaches, and it's not it's not a fun time once that is really going. And Darren Sanderson said, "I avoid coffee when in manic stage 2." I'm impressed that you have that ability to avoid it at that point. That's that's some self-control there. Oh, Molly Ann's here. Hi, Molly Ann. Hi, Agrodulgy. Hi, Andrea. I'm, like, seeing all these people now. I'm sorry if I missed you guys earlier or girls. Um, Molly Ann said, "Mania keeps you from sleeping, correct? So that's not a good idea either." Yeah, not really. Alright, I'm gonna pin this comment from Agrodolce. "Hi, Jess. Hi, people. Is anyone here dealing with both bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder?" I mean, those 2 do coexist at times in people. I don't personally have borderline personality disorder, but there may be someone in here who does. So, Andrea, I'm not gonna try to say the entire handle for you. But Andrea says, "Being impulsive has really been destructive for me. I've said and done a lot of embarrassing things." Same. Same, very much so. And Bipolar and Proud 87 is saying, "Agrodulce, yes." So, people dealing with bipolar and borderline. And Jeff Parnell is saying, "When the hypomania ramps up, I'm at my most creative, but it's usually at 3 a.m. when I have to get up and get ready for work in an hour." Yeah, I find myself waking up early and just not getting a lot of sleep and feeling like a flight of ideas, and sometimes it has to do with my YouTube channel. Like, I'm like, "Oh, I could do this video and that video." And sometimes they're good ideas and sometimes they're like, "What what am I thinking? Like, this is horrible." Like, when I look at it later when I'm stable again. So, but maybe you have better luck than me, Jeff. I don't know. Darren Sanderson is asking about YouTube, saying, "Who here hosts their own YouTube channels? Polar Warriors. I think I've seen your name as a channel. I'll subscribe." Yes, Polar Warriors has a great YouTube channel. And it's actually funny because I can't remember. You have to tell me your name if you're still here, but you look a lot like one of my brothers. So that's how it always like sticks in my mind. Like, that's my brother. It's like, no, no, it's not. Okay. I'm going to put a question in the chat. Yeah. I got this question on Instagram, I believe, for our lives. What is your biggest bipolar fear? I mean, honestly, and I've been having this fear a little more lately, is my meds to stop working or I can't take those meds anymore and other meds don't work because, I've tried nearly all the mood stabilizers. So, let's see here. Polar Warriors says psychosis. That's a big one. Well, yeah. And that's what I fear happening if my bipolar meds stop working. Blake Earth says destroying friendships during mania. That's a big one. Let's see. Marcy VAQ, hello, and also said psychosis. Agrodalchi said psychosis. Seeing a bit of a trend here. Um, Andrea was saying when I have hypomania, I have a flood of ideas, especially about starting businesses, starting my own NGOs, or doing some charity. Well, that's really a nice flood of ideas. Personally think they're great ideas, but unattainable, right? Bipolar and Proud says being too much for anyone goes hand in hand with my abandonment fears and BPD. Yeah, I could really see how those would play off each other. And Catherine Zolik, hello, and said not being able to work anymore. I've had that fear before as well, especially because earlier on I did have to stop working for a time. And, everyone is different. And there are going to be lots of people with bipolar who need to be on disability and should not be working. And that's okay too. It's just, there was a time, when my meds were not working well for me that I couldn't work. And then I was working kind of part time. And then I was able to go and, work full time again. So wait, the polar opposite, biggest bipolar fear, being honest, hypersexuality since my wife is in perimenopause. Thank you for being honest. I've had that fear before too. I mean, if you're one of the married people out there, I mean, even if you're not, it's just, yeah, gosh, you don't want to do something that will ruin your life and ruin other people's lives. Catherine Gates says, change meds, and I'm a zombie again. Yes. Moss T said, fear is hurting others. Jeff Parnell said, the biggest fear for good or bad, bipolar shapes who I am. In some ways, I wouldn't be me with certain aspects of the experience and my own life story. Kind of hard to describe. I think I get what you're talking about. I mean, bipolar does shape who I am. I mean, it's not everything, but it's definitely part of me, and it's changed me in a lot of ways. And I think some for the better, but it's also something I have to constantly be vigilant about, right? I mean, I think we all could probably understand that. Um, Molly Ann was saying, my dad's greatest fear was being in the hospital in a locked ward, which is awful, of course. Yeah, I know your dad had bipolar. Let's see, I don't wanna miss out. Greg Smoot said dementia. Yeah. Okay, I see a question here. I'm gonna pin. And if you just come in, please like this live. It'll bring in more people to the live, and YouTube kind of looks out for that kind of thing. Okay. You're a Tau 14. Well, first, hello. How do you approach someone during mania that is creating grand plans or ideas for their future when things likely won't work out that way? Well, I would love to hear what the chat has to say about this. I'm not sure exactly. I think what I would want someone to do is not so much deal with these symptoms of the mania, like which is having these like flight of ideas or grandiosity. I wouldn't want someone to be like arguing with me about how my ideas, are never, don't make any sense, or like they're not gonna. I think more what I would just want is someone to be like sort of supporting me and helping me and enabling me to get rest and to get sleep and make sure I'm taking my meds if that's something that is, within your means. But I would love for the chat to weigh in on this. Let's see. Moss T says, haha, if I'm manic, you have to be one of the two people I trust to tell me. You definitely have to be someone trusted. I agree with that. Ann Lunam said, I read somewhere to not argue with people who are in an episode, so maybe not shooting them down. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I think, um, arguing with someone who has like a fixed firm belief in something in mania, I mean, I just don't understand what that's going to do. You're not going to be able to talk them out of it. They're in like a different state where they're not going to believe you because they're going to firmly believe whatever these ideas are. I think it's going to be better to try to give support in other ways. I don't like the way this chat, like when I try to scroll, it sort of like jumps. Okay. Okay, Bipolar and Proud says, "Don't judge, but have realistic conversations with me. The Bipolar Survival Guide has great ideas for loved ones to help." That's a really good suggestion. So, there's also a book by Julie Fast. It's called Loving Someone with Bipolar Disorder. That may be helpful to you. My name rhymes with sleigh. Nay, way. Moss Tay. Oh, like Tay almost. I didn't know that, but hey, I've known you a long time, but I did not know that. Okay. So Molly Ann was saying, to Anne that she would agree when my dad was manic, you couldn't reason with him, so no point in arguing. Yeah, I agree. I think something that I found very unhelpful was when I was in mania and I was having grandiose ideas, but they weren't like so far fetched. And so I'd be saying to my mom, like, I'm going to write a book about my life, or like, I'm going to like things that people do. And I think it's amazing. But like when I'm in mania, don't be like, that's a great idea. Like, you should do that. Like, then I'm going to go and spend the next 2 days not sleeping and like writing a book that is probably filled with nonsense. So, yeah. Maybe don't encourage the ideas, even if you think they sound like more reasonable. The person is not stable. The person is not in a place where they should be taking on a project like a book. Let's see. If I missed a question, please put it in the chat again. Blake Earth said, loving someone with bipolar disorder felt to me like didn't put enough accountability on the person with the disorder. Maybe I was being overly self-critical while reading. I actually didn't read that book because, it was, I recommended it to a family member, but since it was not technically geared towards someone with bipolar, so, your feelings about the book, I'm sure, are valid and very accurate. Let's see. Okay. Catherine Gates said, what about coming up with a bipolar book list reference guide? I could do that, or I could figure out how to do that. I could even like put it out there on Instagram, maybe would be the best place. Let me see if I can copy and paste. Yeah. Thank you, Kat. I'll see what I can get because I haven't read that many books about bipolar, just being honest. I've read a few. All right. So kind of like similar topic, talking about how to approach someone who's having kind of grandiose ideas and mania. This is a little bit similar. Okay, so what are the best supportive words or gestures you have received? Now, this could be in an episode, while stable, um, anything goes. Andrea says, when I'm hypomanic and obsess about an idea, my husband will be supportive and realistic with me. Does it make you frustrated if I mean, if he's being supportive, I'm sure that is good, but do you ever get frustrated if he's being realistic? Like, maybe that won't be a great idea or something. Moss Tay says, my spouse has become adept at r- directing my mania, not necessarily going along, but steering me to safer outlets and reminding me of my own action plan. That's really great. Yeah, and Molly Ann says, your spouse sounds very supportive and educated about how to help you. And I feel like some of this is really individualized, like what might work for me may not work for you. It's just I think it is good if you have someone who really knows you well and has, like, been there for you before, so they kind of know what might work and what might not. Moste said, "Most supportive phrase, it's not you, it's the bipolar." Bipolar and proud said, "I'm not going anywhere." Yeah, I love that. And Darren Sanderson said, "Give yourself grace." Yeah, that's a good one. I think the best supportive words to me are, like, when people say, like, "Can I can I bring you dinner?" Or, like, "Can I do laundry for you?" Or, like I don't really love when people do laundry for me, honestly, though, because they usually use, like, the scented detergent, and that can give me a migraine. But, just anything where it's like, "How can I help you?" That's sort of the best for me. Moss said also, "Nothing to forgive, it wasn't your fault." That's, like, just so comforting to hear that because you don't always hear that. Molly Ann said, "How can I help you?" are the best words. That's good, although sometimes I need someone to just sort of do something as opposed to asking. It depends on the person, but if I'm not as close, but, you know, they want to help, it's almost better not that people can read my mind, I understand that, but, sometimes, like, the "How can I help you?" question, I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine, I don't need any help," and really I do, but I just feel bad, even giving the help, even though they offered. Andrea said her best supportive words are, "Don't be so hard on yourself, be more compassionate." Yeah, Molly Ann said she means from a spouse saying, "How can I help you?" Yeah, I love that. We used to have that on our refrigerator here because Brian and I did some couples counseling once and well, a couple times, and the therapist wrote it down, like, she asked me, what would be the best thing for Brian to say in those moments when you're either starting to have an episode or in an episode, and I said, "How can I help you?" And so she wrote it down and we put it on the fridge. Yeah. Okay, I wanna ask, unless someone else has a question right now, I wanna ask another question. I think this is a really good one. Something I think about a lot. Okay, so what are your bipolar non-negotiables? Things you just won't do because it's essential for bipolar management. So what do you not do? Yeah, your sleep schedule. Moss said sleep schedule, definitely. What I try not to do is, like, just overextending myself. I know that's very general though, so I will, like, I kind of hate this sometimes, but I won't volunteer at my daughter's school, like, at all. Like, I won't volunteer to be, like, the class parent. I won't volunteer at festivals and things. Like, I just know I can't do that. And then there's, lots of other events I don't go to that don't have to do with her. But yeah, I really cut back on events. Angie Hayes says, no caffeine after 1 p.m. Otherwise, I can't sleep good. Yeah, I've really cut back on caffeine. Well, I was only drinking 1 cup a day, so I make it sound like I'm drinking so much caffeine, but I've cut down to about a half cup to a third of a cup. And the last few days, yeah, we were supposed to get a delivery with coffee, and it's not coming now until February 10th. So I'm just not drinking any caffeine, which I think gave me a migraine because I was used to it. Let's see. Andrea says, no longer working night shifts, no drugs, not taking on too many tasks. Yes. Yes, definitely. Moss Tay said, news. I limit news and will not watch with another person present. I can't. Yes, I'm exactly the same way. Also, if another person starts talking about the news, it really depends who it is. Because I know who my, like, safe news people are, and there's like one. But yeah, with my husband, he knows he shouldn't talk about the news with me, but sometimes he, can't help himself. There's a lot going on in our world. So, but I do have to cut way back on that. Jeff Parnell says, I don't do big crowds. Also, high energy social events like concerts, I just can't do anymore. I really get that. I don't like big crowds. I do concerts every once in a while, but it's like once a year, and I usually can handle it. But yeah, having, like, these big events, I used to be a part of this, it was called, like, a newcomers club for my town. That was, like, the most triggering thing ever. First of all, I hardly ever went to anything, so all I did was get really anxious about going and then not go. So it was like there was no point. I finally just left the group because it's like, why am I doing this to myself? Molly Ann said, how about limiting sugar? My dad craved sugar when manic. I'm the same way. I have definitely cut down on sugar lately because it was just, I don't know if it was causing episodes, but I find that if I'm getting close to hypomania, if I feel that way, I have to cut down on the sugar, and that can sometimes keep me stable. Looks like Indra Montez just came in. Hello, welcome. Andrea is saying I have to do certain events at work, and it does give me mixed states. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Andrea. I know we've talked about that before. And that's a really good point because sometimes there are things that are nearly impossible to get out of, like something for work. Like I have to do events for work a couple times a year where I have to travel and go to like a conference or an all-day meeting or something like that. And those are really taxing for me and hard on bipolar, super hard. And I can tend to go into mania just from the travel alone. So I have gotten out of them in the past, but it's like I can only get out of it so much. So I feel for you. Yeah, Blake Earth said, "Last time I went to a concert, I was shaking and laughing and basically broke down when I went home." Indra says, "One of my biggest struggles is I constantly change my interests, like to the extreme every 3 or 4 weeks. You know what I mean? My life will totally change." I have had periods like that. I don't so much now. I'm very boring at not boring, but, um, yeah, I don't branch out too much from my interests, but I think other people in the chat will probably relate to that more. Polar opposite says, "I have withdrawn from building new relationships and focused on rebuilding my family relationships since being diagnosed 2 years ago." I think that's pretty healthy. I mean, having a new friendship or a new relationship is it takes a lot out of you, and it's a big time commitment, and I don't think, if you're, if you're kind of new to bipolar, I consider, like, a couple years still pretty new. I think it's good to sort of, like, hunker down, focus on family, and focus on relationships and building relationships that are already there. I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay, Molly asked a question. Says, "Does it get some better with age, the mania part?" I just read about this and someone was telling me, I'm trying to think, it was a certain doctor, but it wasn't my psychiatrist. I can't remember, but they were saying yes, that it mania can get better and like the depression side can be harder, but I don't know how true that is for everyone. Yeah, I'm bipolar and proud said I skipped out on 2 funerals. I regret it now, but was scared as to how it'd trigger me. I I'm actually, yeah, next weekend I'm doing that. We're traveling down to where Brian's from for a memorial, and and my daughter's going, and she's never really been to something like that, but, I think she'll be okay, but it's it's stressful, and it's sad, and it's a lot. It's a lot of emotion, so I can definitely understand that. Let's see. I love how much you guys are just, like, talking to each other as well. I that's so if you're watching this replay, definitely open up the live chat. Malian says, "My dad was better with age, but we're talking old age, like in his 70s and up. He was bad in his 40s and 50s, though." Okay, let's see. Jeff Parnell says to this question, "I don't know if mania is getting better with age, but with age, I do have much greater self awareness, which for me is critical. I'm 45, diagnosed about 13 years ago." Okay. Well, that's all great, right? All right. let's see. I'm gonna try to do another poll. Let's see if I can manage this. I don't know why it didn't work last time. I got this question at some point last week, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay. Okay. So this isn't my opinion really, but someone was saying on Instagram that antipsychotic, just the word, for antipsychotics sounds scary. But does this mean we should change the name or change the perception? I mean, could we even change the name? What would the name be changed to? Yeah, so far 85% are saying change the perception. I think that would be my vote. I mean, I think it would, but how do you do that? Like, how do you change the perception? I mean, by having all this awareness, like, on social media and YouTube. I mean, hopefully. Um, yeah, Indra says it's way harder to change the perception. Yeah, it's a good point. Moss Tay said, "I got banned from IG for a year for naming meds. I'm a chicken now." I mean, the other day I showed my pill box with, like, all the pills in it, and I didn't even think about it, but then after the fact, I was like, "Oh, am I gonna get banned now?" Like, Moss did. I didn't actually say the names, I guess. Yeah, Bipolar and Proud says even psychotherapy gets a bad rap and it's literally just therapy. Yeah, my dad is a psychotherapist. Well, he just retired. But I remember when I was a kid, like a little kid, even then, I would tell friends like he's a therapist. I never said psychotherapist because that sounded like kind of scary to me. So I've been around the a form of the word my whole life and somehow I mean, it doesn't bother me now, of course, but and just said in the long term, sure. But short term, you can change the name brand. What would you change the name to, guys, instead of antipsychotic? Maybe, I mean, you can't call it a mood stabilizer. Sorry, one second. Yeah, Ma says no matter what word, people will stigmatize, fight stigma, not vocabulary. Call it, Molly said, anti manic. Moss said, call it a chill pill. I like that. Yeah, the polar opposite says chill pill rules. They can all be chill pills, like, we can just lump them all together, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, what else? A anything, anti-anxiety, antidepressants. Well, we're already, like, coming up to the end of the hour. See, this is why I'm glad I didn't wait too much longer to do another live because it's so great. It's so great to have everyone here and, like, talking to each other, talking to me, it's just, like, cool. Oh, Molly says, "Call it chillax pill." That's even better. It's almost been an hour. We still have a little bit of time, so, like, get in any final questions, comments. Let me see if I have another question. I don't, but just while you're thinking, I did just do an episode. I'm calling it Our Bipolar Voices. So it's sort of like interview conversation series on Our Bipolar. And it was with Missy Hayes, who is the creator of Comfortable Silence clothing brand. It's like a mental health oriented clothing brand, and she also has Bipolar 1, so check that out if you haven't watched it yet. It's really good. She was very, like, open and honest about her struggles, and She's seen some things, and she was diagnosed with bipolar at 15. So, yeah, she's had a lot of experience with it. I love you guys talking about the chillax. Chillax. Moss. You guys are great. Okay. I'm gonna try that poll about Brian coming to the next live. Oh, wait. I got a question from Jeff Parnell. What are some skills or qualities you've developed as you discovered you have bipolar or learned to live with? Skills or qualities. I'm like blanking for some reason. What do you guys think about this? Yeah. Ma said emotional granularity. That's one I've also developed. And she also said compassion, resilience. I think like saying no, like learning boundaries for me has been huge. And sometimes I might overuse no, but I feel like it's better to do that than to overuse yes. Angie Hayes says empathy. Ma says dedication to myself. The polar opposite says to feel deeply. Molly Ann said, Jess, you're here. This is your great quality having this channel. Well, thank you. I do really enjoy connecting with other people who have bipolar and trying to help people. I get a lot of people on here or just on the channel in general that have loved ones or children who have bipolar and are trying to learn how to help them. And I really love that. Like people are trying to educate themselves and also just like, what can they do? What can they do to support a loved one or a friend? Bipolar and Proud said I was finally able to understand myself and pinpoint what was bipolar, what wasn't. Things that haunted me and had no explanation for. Yeah, that's a great response. Victoria Moyer said patience. Had to become much more patient with myself, with others. A lot of people don't understand bipolar. If Yes, if they've come on the channel or they've done research, they may understand it a little better, but there's so many people who really don't understand it, and there's only so much we can do. I mean, they have to be willing to learn, right? Jeff Parnell, he said, "For me, I learned and developed self-awareness. For me, it's important so I can notice how my moods are shifting." Definitely. That's one thing I well, I was blanking, but I should say I've really learned, not always, but I have learned my warning signs for going into especially hypomania. Now, for depression, it's harder for me, and I just don't have as much experience with it, so that's part of the problem. Okay. So we're on the hour, but I'm going to do this poll really quick since they seem to be working again about Brian coming for part of the next live. And we can do a little bit of like relationships, good, bad, the ugly. It's not going to be a lovey dovey thing. I did it. All right. Should Brian join our next live to talk relationships? And you can say no. It's it's totally fine. Just want to get a little kind of barometer check. I'm going to take this question down. So it looks like most people are saying yes or maybe. There's about 8% saying let's stick to solo lives. I think even if we do it, he won't be here even for half because I just don't think he could really do that yet. Yeah, so it's a little up in the air. I'm gonna think about it, talk to him, and I know, it is, like, possibly a little weird having someone come in who doesn't have bipolar, although he's lived with me for almost 20 years and, he can talk to that side of it. He obviously cannot talk to what bipolar is or how we feel, and I would not want him to do that anyway, and he wouldn't. Darren Sanderson. He said, Brian 100, there's no better testimony than firsthand relationships. He knows bipolar. He knows it probably as well as he can without having it. So, he can never know it completely. That's just my opinion. But Moss Tay says, just Brian, no Jess. JK. Trust me, he could fill an hour. I'm sure he could fill an hour all on his own. Oh, thank you, Indra. Said, "I've only been here for 15 minutes or so, but it's been really nice and supportive." Good. Yeah, everyone here is just wonderful. And Molly Ann said, "Everyone who's bipolar is extremely intelligent." That is a fact. Well, I like to think so. I know, like, my friends who have bipolar are all extremely intelligent. I don't know about me, but Indra says, "My wife and I always joke she kind of inherited bipolar from me." Yeah, somewhat, right? Oh, well, thank you guys so much. It's a few minutes after, so I don't wanna keep you. I wanna keep all of our, mental health good and not overwhelm anyone or myself. But, oh, the polar opposite says, "My wife says my dog is bipolar too. She's not wrong." Someday we're gonna have to show dog pictures and cat pictures and any pet pictures, right? Because, if you guys watch my videos, like Lucy, my dog is usually in the videos, but, like, I can't fit her back here. So Oh, and Roma Monk said, "Thank you, Jess. I'm loving listening to the comments." Yeah, and if anyone's here and not commenting, that's totally cool. I'm glad you're here. It's just great having everyone here, and I know, like, I join lots of lives where I don't comment at all. I just follow along, and I get a lot out of it, so alright, well, I'm gonna close it out then. Thank you so much for coming and, like, another great live. I love doing these. I'm so glad I, like, decided to get over my fear of talking live and, you know, just being shy and uncomfortable. But Yeah, so we'll do this again soon, probably in a few weeks. Until then, I hope you do well and I hope you survive this snow if you're I know you will. I know we'll all survive it. I hope you have some good snacks for the the snowstorm. And if you're not having a snowstorm, I'm very, very happy for you. So, all right, everyone. I love you so much, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for joining. Bye.